what was Mr. Davis's version of events as it relates to what happened with Tupac Shakur?
All right, law nerds,
Davis stated
buckle up. I have no idea what's in store after the day we had yesterday. I'm still trying to process the day we had yesterday. Yesterday is one of the most interesting days in court I think I can remember in a very, very long time. We had witnesses who were not only there the night that this happened, we had witnesses who saw the immediate aftermath. We had a detective who the defense was trying to say, well, isn't it better to write reports now? And this cold case detective is like, let me tell you about how we write our reports and why they might be late and how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that. And then we got into Reggie Wright Jr., who had been Compton PD, whose dad had been Compton PD, who grew up in the neighborhood with Suge Keffe D, lived in the same neighborhood, talked about right-way security, why security was not armed that night in the club. You know what nobody asked him, though? Nobody asked him if they were armed outside the club. He's like, no, we couldn't be armed in the club. Did you have safes in your vehicles? Like, what were we doing? And then we heard from Mob James, which is one of the wildest witnesses I have ever seen in a trial. The unfiltered, well, somewhat filtered honesty of Mob James. And the reason I say unfiltered is because when Mob James wasn't going to answer something, there was no, I don't recall. There was no sidestepping around it. There was just, are you seriously asking me that right now? You really want me to tell you that? He told Keffe D at one point yesterday, come get your lawyer. He's tripping. Some of the craziest stuff I have seen. We're going to go to court today, see what they put on the record before we get into witnesses. What will today bring? I don't know. But what I do know is that Keffe D has repeatedly said that when his car pulled up to the car that Tupac was in, that Suge Knight was driving, that he and Suge Knight locked eyes. I want to hear that testimony from Suge's perspective.
What is your purpose in talking to Mr. Davis in the proper session?
Well, the purpose is to glean as much information as we can regarding what he knew or knew at the time regarding gang,
other
drug,
things,
violent activity going on within the Watts and Compton areas.
Were you investigating directly, at least, the Tupac Shakur murder?
Not directly. Like it wasn't. We weren't assigned. We were working our normal gang activity investigations. However, it was known to us that he was a person of interest. Mr. Davis was a person of interest regarding that homicide.
And he repeatedly denies to you knowing who killed Tupac Shakur.
Yeah, he said they didn't have any knowledge of what happened. That they were.
He's like, look, homie, I don't know who killed Tupac. See, I was in the passenger side of my best friend's ride, and the driver's side was shooting, and I wasn't looking that way.
Involved. He did later speculate that maybe it was some Compton police officers that were working for Suge Knight, and that maybe it was because he had heard that Tupac was talking about possibly leaving Death Row Records or something to that effect. But
his suggestion was that perhaps Knight, who's driving the car, had Compton police officers shoot Tupac in the car Suge's driving.
Yes, something like that effect. He said he believed that Reggie Wright Jr. and the blooded gang members associated with him were the ones responsible for killing Notorious B.I.G. When asked who the individual was who actually killed him, based off of there was a composite drawing that was that had been provided and was kind of passed around, so we showed him that. Davis responded that the composite looked just like Reggie Wright Jr.
Weird that he's throwing Reggie Wright Jr. under the bus again and again and again.
Shortly after that conversation that you had with Mr. Davis, did he enter a guilty plea to some charges and get sentenced to 70 months in federal prison?
Yes, he did.
That's a little less than 6 years. So he got some benefit from talking to you.
Not much.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 70 months. It might have been 77 months, 70 or 77. I don't recall specifically.
He didn't get that much. He didn't get that much of a benefit.
And so you are writing out what your impressions or recollection was of a specific event or time, right?
So fiction?
Correct.
So if you're sitting in a room and we're having a conversation, you would note in your report who's in the room and what your impressions were of what was said and who said what, right?
Correct.
Now, of course, juries here would be curious. You know, we have recorders now back in 1996, 1998 in this case. Recorders were available to the FBI, but of course, that's not how you do your job.
The use of recordings for the FBI they were not standard policy and procedure for the FBI at that period of time.
Yeah, and you've retired since what, 5 years ago?
Yes.
During that time period, has it changed in terms of that policy with the FBI?
During the time period that I've been retired,
Right, no, up until the time that you retired, has the policy changed?
the standard procedure is no, not to record.
Right.
Interesting.
And so as a result of that, any recording that's done is typically not what the FBI does, right? You still focus on.
In opening statements, remember the defense said that a recording of this proffer leaked. So I'm not surprised he's asking about recordings.
Mr. Davis gives an agreement, and in the agreement, I'm assuming the idea behind it is that he has to give you truthful information, right?
Verifiable.
And if there's no
Truthful
truthful
information.
information, then he's exposing himself to a potential
Well,
crime.
they still
in
don't
which
use it
he's
against
now
him.
freely admitted to it, right?
No, they still don't use it against him, even if he's lying.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I mean, if he's
So-
lying, then he's lying.
Here, I don't want to break it down for myself because maybe I don't understand. So a proffer agreement promises the person that you're interviewing that we're not going to prosecute you for what you're telling us.
Right.
If the person's lying and you catch them lying, then technically the proffer doesn't count anymore because they violated their terms of the agreement. Is that how that goes?
No.
If they lied during the agreement
During the
or
proffer?
during the proffer session.
If they lie during the proffer, they don't get the benefit of a deal and it all just gets scrapped because they say, well, that's all bullshit.
So that doesn't necessarily the benefit is for consideration for plea bargaining and sentencing consideration. So if the individual who is being interviewed during the proffer session shows a lack of candor, lies, and things of that nature,
No deal.
then the consideration for a plea bargain, plea agreement, will be considered by the United States Attorney's Office and what they will offer to that defendant. As far as using it against them, it's still the proffer agreement terms as far as using that information against them in that case in chief on that charge, we would still not use it. Does that make sense?
Sure. I just want to make sure it makes sense.
Right. Okay. So one of the things about the proffer agreement is it's, as I said earlier, was to set up it's the beginning of a sort of plea negotiation period. So we go to Mr. Davis, we say, you come in, you tell us the truth. We won't use it against you in this case or whatever.
We'll give you a deal.
Regardless of what you say. And the United States Attorney's Office will take that information, determine how useful, how valuable it is. For example, not necessarily in this case, we've had individuals who provide information and then they actually go on to become cooperating witnesses for us. They're willing to testify in case against other co-defendants and things of that nature. All of that gets utilized in determining the sentencing for that person and for reducing their sentence on that federal charge. As you're suggesting, if an individual comes in and they're not truthful, they're providing us information that we know is factually inaccurate based on our other investigation, surveillance, wiretaps, and things of that nature, and statements from other witnesses, we would report that to the United States Attorney's Office, and they would take that as far as the sentencing that they would offer for the plea agreement. They would say, well, your client hasn't been forthright and candor. We're not going to reduce it at all.
There is a difference between proffer and immunity. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What
It's a
Mr.
good
Davis was
question.
telling you, you wouldn't use against him, correct?
Correct.
There wasn't any sort of immunity for any crimes that he disclosed. You just couldn't use the statements that he made to you to prosecute him for those
Federally.
particular crimes.
That's correct.
And that it was an agreement between the United States Attorney's Office and Mr. Davis.
That's correct.
At no point in here did this.
Well, whoop, there it is. Because Keffe D talked about having federal immunity. And the prosecutor circles back around and redirect and is like, no, you had a proffer agreement. You never had immunity. A proffer agreement isn't, we won't prosecute you for these things. We won't use your words against you. But you don't have immunity from these. We can prosecute you for whatever you tell us. We just can't use the words you say.
State of Nevada, the Clark County District Attorney's Office, or any agency other than the U.S. Attorney's Office make an agreement with Mr. Davis about these 302s.
That's correct.
Nothing further.
It is a half day in court today. They brought in a FBI agent who was part of 2 proffer conversations with Keffe D and was working the Safe Streets Task Force in the area of Watts and South Central California, working more with Grape Street and other Crip set gangs than with Southside Compton Crips, because the task force he was assigned to was not working in the Compton area. These are separate areas, even though they are close together. So he gave a little history of what was going on there and then brought in one proffer interview that Keffe D gave when he was popped by the feds for cocaine distribution. And then one follow-up interview they did after Keffe D was already in prison. He got somewhere between 70 and 77 months. It seems that he got a deal from the feds for that proffer. And what I thought was helpful is that they did go through the fact that this proffer was a, hey, I'll tell you what I know and see if I can get a deal. Not an immunity deal, not a you're going to come testify against anybody. You give us some information. If that information's helpful to us, we'll help you out. If that information's not helpful to us, well, we're not going to use it against you. We're going to prosecute you anyway. It was not an immunity deal. It was, can you be helpful? And if so, we'll recommend a lighter sentence to the court. And it seems that that's what happens. All of the documents regarding that particular case had been admitted into evidence, but they were not read into the record. Those are certified court documents. So we don't have all of that, but the jury will have that.
I direct your attention to approximately 2006. Were you asked to be part of a task force related to the Christopher Wallace murder?
Yes, I was.
And can you describe that task force for us?
So you were with RHD?
Homicide Specials.
Right.
Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, FBI, ATF, and DEA. Were all
So this is who's involved in the task force investigating the murder of Biggie, which took place in Los Angeles.
And was there a precipitating event that caused the 2006 task force to be
The
formed?
murder of Biggie?
Yeah, Christopher Wallace's mother filed a lawsuit against the Los Angeles Police Department
Oh,
And what was the allegation in the lawsuit?
that there was police officer involvement in his death.
oh,
LA police officer involvement?
Yes.
And
I didn't know that.
What was the purpose of the 2006 task force?
To uncover, first of all, if there was any police officer involvement, and also to hopefully solve the
I forgot about
Biggie
that
Smalls
completely.
murder case.
How is it that you target Mr. Davis?
The vehicle used in the Christopher Wallace murder was a Impala. Mr. Davis had an Impala, and they had impounded it early on in the investigation. So we started with him.
During the course of that, do you ask Mr. Davis about his involvement in the Biggie Smalls murder?
Yes.
And what is his response?
At that time, he said, no, we didn't have anything to do with that.
We didn't have anything
When
to
he
do with
said
that
We
one.
didn't have anything to do with that one. Did that trigger anything in your mind as to what he was saying?
When I recall, yes, we were like, that one, what do you mean? And then he
What was
said,
it?
we did the other one.
He said, we did the other one.
Oh boy.
And so at that point, what did you think he was talking about?
Me personally, the only other one was Tupac. But we had nothing, we didn't think he was, we were talking about Christopher Wallace. We didn't ask him any questions about Tupac. He offered that on his own.
And so when he does that, is there some discussion
boy.
then of maybe having a conversation about Tupac?
It was a surprise to us. Number one, we were shook. We were surprised.
Shook is the appropriate term, sir. We're here
Yes.
for it.
I mean, I don't know if we shut that meeting down then to discuss what we were going to do. I don't remember, but we were surprised.
At that point, before having this conversation with Mr. Davis, has anybody notified Las Vegas that Mr. Davis is going to be talking about the Tupac Shakur murder?
I bet not.
Fortunately, no.
Were you present on December 18th for an interview with Mr. Davis about the Tupac Shakur murder?
Yes.
And did you subsequently learn, or previously learn, but subsequently learn that that conversation was recorded?
Yes.
Do you know who recorded that statement?
One of the members of the task force, Bill Holcomb.
Did there come a point in time where you heard that recording?
Yes.
The jury is going to hear the entire thing at some point. But
At some point.
generally speaking, what was Mr. Davis's version of events as it relates to what happened with Tupac Shakur?
Mr. Davis stated that his nephew, Mr. Orlando
All right, law nerds, buckle up.
Anderson, was jumped and beat up in a club or in a hotel in Las Vegas after the Tyson fight. He came and told Mr. Davis what happened. They went looking for Tupac, Suge, anybody who was involved, basically, in the beatdown of Mr. Anderson. And they couldn't find him at first, and then they saw him, and basically Mr. Davis had the gun at first, but they came up on the passenger side of Suge Knight and Mr. Shakur's vehicle, so he couldn't shoot across the driver. So he handed the gun to Dre in the back seat, Andre Smith. He was afraid to shoot. Mr. Anderson grabbed the gun and shot across Mr. Smith into Mr. Knight's car that Mr. Tupac Shakur was in with Mr. Knight.
And did he tell you what kind of vehicle he was in?
He was in a white Cadillac,
Did he tell you what kind of gun was used?
a 40 cal Glock.
And did he tell you after the shooting where the car went? If you recall. If you don't recall.
I don't recall.
After receiving this information in March of 2009, does the task force sign Mr. Davis up as a confidential informant?
Yes.
And once you sign him up as a
Bro.
confidential informant,
Bro worked as a CRI. No, he did not. Signed him up as a reliable, confidential informant so he could keep talking. Interesting. But it sounds to me like he told them everything. I handed the gun to Dre. Dre was too afraid to shoot. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson took the gun and shot across Dre into Tupac's car. It's awfully specific. Also, this is being told after Anderson's deceased. And possibly after Dre and the driver are deceased.
Mr. Davis had a narcotics friend in New York by the name of Equan Williams, Zip. He said he could, this is a lot deeper than that. Sean Puffy Combs was supposed to have given money to Zip Martin to give to Mr. Davis for payment of the Tupac murder. Fast forward, we go to Mr. Davis. He says he can rekindle that relationship with Mr. Zip Martin and get him to talk about the money that was given from Sean Puffy Combs to Mr. Martin that never got to Mr. Davis.
And did you guys, or Mr. Davis?
The way he tells it, Keffe D said, yo, I can hit up Zip on the wires. I can hit up Zip and see what Zip would confirm on the wires about the money, about Puffy not paying, about whether Puffy agreed to the hit, because Zip was the connection there. But he offered it. Keffe D offered it, according to this officer. I can't wait to hear that part of the interview. Hey, I'll hit up Zip and see what he says.
Does he in fact meet with Zip?
Zip, he did, but from what we gathered from Mr. Davis told us, he passed him off to his nephew, meaning Zip passed him off to his nephew to do business with him.
Zip wasn't saying shit.
Had cancer or something like that. He was sickly. He said he wasn't in the business no more, something like that. So it didn't work.
So he was unable to reestablish a business relationship and do a drug deal with Zip. So
I bet the streets were already talking about Keffe D being a snitch. With Zip being like, I'm not coming out to the club, I'm sick, I'm too old for this shit, is one thing. But I think the streets were probably already having the conversation that Keffe D was a snitch.
You are targeting Mr. Davis because you believe he may have been a suspect in the Biggie Smalls murder.
yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, I would assume in the future, you're going to tell all of us that he was no longer a suspect in that murder, right?
That is correct.
You found information that were indicating that the car that was potentially the car used in the Biggie Smalls murder was not his vehicle, maybe somebody else was there. And there were some issues with regards to his location that he wouldn't have been the one to be the shooter in the case.
Whatever the reasons, I just know he wasn't involved in the Biggie Smalls murder.
The recording that had occurred and the one that you've introduced into evidence in this case, was that a recording to which Mr. Davis or his attorney knew about?
Which one, 2008 or 2009?
2008.
2008? I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't know it was being recorded either.
Sure. And with regard to the FBI special agent that was there, are you aware of what's called a 302?
Yes.
What is a 302?
It's a report, information report that they write out, kind of like the DEA 6, kind of.
Yeah. And then in terms of how the 302 works is they don't actually record information with a recorder. They actually just write things down into the 302, right?
That's correct.
In this particular case, was Special Agent Bennett aware that there was a recording?
I have no idea.
Now, in addition to that, on March 9th, you had said that something that he was, I guess, activated as a confidential informant. So I think it's around that time period, right, of 2009. Between what time periods did Mr. Davis give information to LAPD as a confidential informant? Do you remember?
I don't remember how many times we met or how many times I was involved in speaking to him. But it's just those 3 times, the first time in his garage, 2008, 2009, and then when we went to New York. That's all my dealings with Mr. Davis was, that I can remember.
Okay. Now, the December 2008 proffer that you were part of, did you verify any of the information?
That Mr. Davis told us?
Yeah.
We were trying to verify as much as we could.
Okay.
That's why
Well,
we
tell us the
Yeah.
efforts. No, I'm sorry. Can you tell this jury the efforts that you made to verify the information that
I imagine this will happen with both this interview and the next one, because we saw the defense asking the same questions the last witness.
2008?
flying to New York to try to get the relationship with Zip, Mr. Martin, because he was involved here in Vegas with the murder, and the large sum of money that was supposed to be given to Mr. Martin to give to Mr. Davis. So that's why we flew to New York, to try to get that whole thing going.
Right. And based upon your efforts in New York, were you able to verify that any of that information to be true?
No.
Now, in addition to that, there was other information that Mr. Davis gave up in 2008 in December. Did you verify any of that other information to be true?
I don't think any other.
That was a pretty quick no. Did you verify anything? No. Which goes right to the defense theory of the case. The defense theory of the case is my guy's a bullshitter. He says some bullshit. They didn't even verify this was true. My dude could have been bullshitting nonstop.
Did you at any point verify, for instance, the people that he identified in the vehicle?
No.
They were all dead by then.
You are aware, of course, that some of the people that he had identified in the vehicle were still alive in 2008, right?
One was.
Who was that?
That was Terrence Brown.
Okay.
Oh, so you did
ever
verify.
verify
One was still
that
alive.
Terrence Brown was in Las Vegas at the time of the murder?
He never got a chance to.
Why not?
As I said, our first course of action was to tie in Mr. Combs, the money, and work back from there.
You never once reached out to Metro at that time to say, hey, Las Vegas, you guys are the ones in charge of this murder. Come down to have an interview with Davis?
The decisions were, again, way
Not
above
theirs.
my pay grade. And our command staff, whoever made that decision to keep it in-house and for us to handle it on the Fed level, because it would have spread all the way to Las Vegas and not notify Las Vegas Metro at that time, wasn't my decision.
I see. So had it been somebody up the chain, maybe even the United States Attorney.
Oh, it definitely would have been the feds and the
Okay.
AUSAs.
That's not your call to make.
No, I'm just a soldier.
I appreciate that. Now, in addition to that, sir, your in terms of the information we're talking about here, at some point your other LAPD detective leaves the LAPD. Greg Cady.
Yes. In 2011.
We going to talk about that?
And in 2011, I believe he publishes a book.
Yes.
And that book is called Murder Rap.
Yes.
Did you read that book?
Parts of it.
All right. And fair to say, of course, is that
Did you read Keffe D's book?
if you saw something in the book that was not accurate, you probably tell Greg Cady, like, hey, this is not accurate, this is not right.
Nope.
I wouldn't tell him nothing. That's
Oh,
his version.
I wouldn't tell him nothing.
Right. Okay, so it's his version of events. You would have been like, okay, this is not right about what I did. I'm just going to leave it alone because that's what Greg Cady interpreted it to be.
No. I'm saying I was on the Los Angeles Police Department, still in charge of the Biggie Smalls case by myself. And whatever came from any books that were written, it was my responsibility to make sure that everybody was okay if they were outed in that book. So.
Oh, shit. Greg bounced and wrote the book. He just said, I'm still on the Biggie task force, trying to make sure that everyone who spoke to us, who just got blown up on the street, is okay. Oh, shit.
So I'm not going to tell another man what he should and shouldn't do as far as writing a book. If you want to write a book, write a book. If it comes back my way and I got to investigate something you said, then I'll do that.
So this individual, Greg Cady.
That was a very judicious answer, detective.
So this individual, Greg Cady, leaves LAPD and takes the Tupac file with him?
From what I hear, something to that effect.
Meaning he stole the file.
Something to that effect.
Now, in addition to that, he also took the Biggie file, right?
I need more answers on that because he was still on that task force. Where'd the file go? But if they're digital, damn.
From what I hear, something to that effect.
Meaning he stole the file.
Something to that effect.
Now, in addition to that, he also took the Biggie file, right, with him when he left.
From what I hear, I've never seen him, but that's what I hear.
Did you have reason to doubt his version of events as it relates to the homicide itself?
I didn't think Mr. Davis was lying because he put the gun in his nephew's hand. And if if anybody knows anything, from what I hear, Mr. Orlando Anderson was the man besides Keffe D in that neighborhood. He was the prince, and his family loved him. I didn't think that Mr. Davis would put the gun in his own nephew's hand,
If that's not true.
dead or alive, and put that smut on him unless it was true. The person that killed Tupac, well, in the neighborhood, he's a hero. In the world, he's a villain. So I didn't think Mr. Davis,
Wow.
me personally, would do that unless it was true with his own nephew. Because I know he loved his nephew. They all loved Orlando.
And so that particular
Welp. Did you think Keffe D was lying? He put the gun in his nephew's hand. So based on his work experience, he's explaining to you how he walked through the thought process of whether what Keffe D is telling him is the truth or not. That is powerful testimony. 2 witnesses on this half day, trial day 3. I feel like we've lived 100 years in this trial because there has been some wild testimony. Today, the second witness on the stand, because again, half day, the second witness on the stand was LAPD, now retired, part of the task force that was investigating the death of Biggie Smalls. As a part of that task force, he did multiple interviews with Keffe D and flew with Keffe D to New York so Keffe D could try to have a conversation with Zip. Remember, Zip is the one he says he originally got the gun from that evening, and Zip was his connect to Puffy, Diddy, Sean Combs. The conversation around that was Keffe D told law enforcement while working as a confidential informant with them that Sean Combs never paid them being Southside Compton Crips, never paid them for the hit on Tupac and Suge Knight. And so he offered to initiate or re-initiate conversation with Zip, presumably to try to get that recorded on wire, to try to talk about the monies owed from Sean Combs. The detective also said at the beginning of their investigation into the Biggie murder, there were kind of 2 working theories. Either Southside Compton Crips took out Biggie because Sean Combs never paid for the hit on Tupac and Suge, or that Biggie got taken out as retaliation for the killing of Tupac. Those were their 2 working theories. But either way, there was an Impala leaving the scene, and Keffe D had a similar Impala that had been detained early on. Plus, there was conversation about Southside Compton Crips. So they wanted to see if they could jam up Keffe D on some drug stuff to see if he would be interested in working with them. Hey, you have a lot of narcotics there. Would you like to form an alliance? And then we learn that while they're doing the Biggie task force, it seems that the feds aren't specifically interested in the Biggie murder as much as they're interested in bringing RICO cases against Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records, because the feds believed that both of those record labels were being fueled by drug money, and they wanted to go after those larger RICO cases, and the murder cases would become part of the acts of violence proving RICO. But it was very interesting to hear a witness on the stand sit down and say, yeah, the feds were interested in RICO cases against both Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. Really interesting testimony. And when asked by the prosecution if he believed what Keffe D was saying in his proffer, he said, yeah, I personally believed what Keffe D was telling us because I did not believe that Keffe D would be giving us a proffer that told us Orlando Anderson was the gunman in the Tupac shooting if that wasn't true, because everyone loved Orlando Anderson. The witness said Orlando Anderson was a prince. Keffe D loved his nephew. He was like the number 2 guy in Southside Compton Crips. He was beloved. And so he said, I don't think Keffe D would have put that on his nephew, alive or dead. He said, wouldn't wouldn't put that smut, I think was his exact word, on his nephew, alive or dead. So I believed him. And that's why I believed him. And they also asked him questions about former LAPD Detective Greg Kading, who the defense has alleged stole the case files, or at least copies of them, to write his book, released tape of Keffe D's proffer. And what we saw was that our last witness was still working this task force and trying to clean up the mess left by Greg Kading after dropping that book in 2011, because the task force was still ongoing. And people were, he said, outed in that book. And he was scrambling, trying to make sure people were okay. But he made it very clear that A, he sticks to the code, and B, he didn't have anything to say to Greg Kading about anything. And he's never spoken to the man and only read parts of the book. Very, very interesting. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.